Welcome to our Rotherham SENDIAS video about transition to a new school for a child with special educational needs or a disability. This video will focus on frequently asked questions and will provide practical things to consider before a transition to a new school or setting. This information will be helpful leading up to key transition points, for example, nursery to foundation stage within a different school, Year 2 to Year 3, an infant school to a different junior school, Year 6 to Year 7, Year 11 to sixth form, college or other post-16 setting, and transitions to a new school mid-year, for example when an EHC names a different school or following a house move. So we often get asked about moving schools, particularly if a child with special educational needs or a disability doesn't have an EHC plan. How will the new school know that your child has SEND? Head teachers at maintained schools, including maintained special schools, must ensure the statutory requirements for the transfer of records between schools. If a pupil moves to another school in England, Wales, Scotland or Northern Ireland, the pupil's common transfer file and educational record must be passed to the new school. Academies are not subject to the same regulations, however they are expected to adhere to them as a matter of good practice. Information must be transferred within 15 school days of any request from a pupil's new school. And information held in a child's common transfer file includes information on special educational needs that have been identified. Here's some top tips when moving schools. You as a parent might also wish to be proactive. For example, you could ask for a time to speak with the SENCO of the new school. This might be over the phone or via a planned visit. Share up-to-date information on your child, including any diagnosis that they may have received and any support strategies that have proved to be successful in their current school or setting. Provide copies of any new or relevant reports, although remember, please don't hand over your only copies. You could ask the current school to arrange a meeting and invite the SENCO of the new school along. This could provide an opportunity for any questions to be answered or any strategies to be shared and discussed. It would be helpful if a copy of the SEND plan, or whatever the named document is that the current school have, could also be shared. You might also find it helpful to take a look on the new school's website. You might wish to look at their SEND policy, SEND information report, and any other policy you feel might be helpful. It might also be useful for you to familiarise yourself with the SEND team, including contact details for future use. So we often get asked about different reports. For example, if you've just received an educational psychology report providing advice, but then your child is about to move to a different school, will they have to get new advice in the new school? The very quick answer to that is no. The new school will be able to make use of any reports that have been done and consider any recommendations or strategies. The new school may need to adapt some strategies if they were written for a specific setting in mind. For example, if the previous school had a particular facility, such as a sensory room, but the new school doesn't have such a space available. However, there might be some questions if reports are considered to be old and therefore no longer relevant. We also get asked questions about the transfer of information with regards to EHC processes if your child's about to move. So for example, the primary school were gathering evidence in order to request an EHC needs assessment, but your child's about to move to Year 7 soon. Would we have to start all over again? Ideally, no. When an EHC needs assessment has been requested, the local authority will need to see evidence to support the legal test. This evidence will need to show that your child has or may have special educational needs and a disability, and that they may need provision via an EHC plan. As such, the new school will be able to use the school records of the previous school too. However, it might be appropriate to allow your child some time to settle into the new setting before a request is submitted. This will provide a period of time for the staff to get to know them, consider any areas of need within their setting, and implement any strategies too. This will then add to the evidence the previous school have gathered. We also get asked about what happens to an EHC process if an EHC assessment was agreed in a previous local authority, but then you've moved authorities at that time. What happens to the process at that stage? The SEND Code of Practice says some children and young people will move between local authority areas while they're being assessed for a plan. The new local authority should decide whether it needs to carry out an EHC needs assessment themselves, and it must decide whether to undertake an EHC needs assessment if it receives a request from the child's parent or young person. The new authority should take account of the fact that the old authority decided to actually carry out the EHC needs assessment when making its decision. If it decides to do so, then it should use the information already gathered as part of its own EHC needs assessment. Depending on how far the assessment had progressed, this information should help the new authority complete the assessment more quickly than it would have otherwise done. So on a practical note, you might find it helpful to inform the new local authority that you're requesting an EHC needs assessment and that one was requested and agreed in the previous local authority. It would be helpful to send all of the paperwork to the new local authority, including the previous local authority's decision, to help them make their decision. So we're often asked about transition and how you can help a child feel prepared for the move. Change can feel unsettling for a lot of people for very different reasons. So here are some practical tips on how to prepare for a change of school. Talk positively about the new school. Make sure you name the new school so they know where they're going and start to refer to it as your new school to allow them a sense of belonging. Look on the school website together. It might be helpful to look at things such as school uniform, any photos the school might have about positive activities, and there might also be photos of some key staff. Plan a drive-by or walk-by. This may help your child to be able to visualise the building and where it's situated. Sometimes being able to picture the building and area can reduce worry. Arrange a visit where you can go into the building and meet key staff. Dependent on your child's needs, you might wish to consider the most appropriate times of day for this, for example, avoiding busy movement times or even having the first visit when the students have gone home already. Use visual supports. This might be helpful for some students so they feel prepared before they attend. It might be some schools are willing to have some photos of key points in the school taken. This could be looked at leading up to the transition. Ensure any uniform is ready in advance. If you know your child has sensory challenges, you might wish to allow time for new uniform to be washed and softened prior to having to wear this for the first time. Make sure any uniform you buy follows the school policy correctly, or any adjustments that are needed are agreed prior to the first day. This will reduce the risk of staff members offering uniform challenges for them on the first day of school. Practice the journey to and from school, particularly if your child is making their own way. Make sure you have all the appropriate equipment before they start school and offer support if your child needs help to pack their bag. Again, this cuts down on stressors if they find that they've forgotten something that they need. Check school policies on things such as mobile phones, makeup and jewellery, food and drink items that may not be allowed. Again, knowing in advance prevents any challenges being provided by staff on the first day. Be clear on the start and finish time so your child is more prepared and doesn't run the risk of being late on their first day of school. We often get questions about normal transition points, particularly if an EHC plan's been issued. For example, if a child is in Year 6 and has a new EHC plan, but the plan names a school for Year 7 that the parent didn't want, what should you do at this point? You've got three options to consider here. First of all, the option of not taking any action, but working with the school around transition and the support available for your child via the EHC plan. The school named in his final EHC plan needs to be implemented, and all of Section F needs to be considered to ensure that your child's needs are met. You may wish to try this for a period of time, and if things show your child's needs are not well met, then you might wish to call an early annual review of the plan to request a change of the provision at that point. You might also wish to take a look at our SENDIAS YouTube video on annual reviews with a focus on requesting changes to the plan. The second option is to go forward with mediation. So RMBC Council use Community Accord, which is an independent service and will provide a trained mediator to facilitate a discussion. You can reach Community Accord on 01274 22 3313. You would have to contact mediation within 2 months of the final EHC plan being issued. You could request the service set up a mediation session between you and the local authority. You might find it helpful to also take a look at our SENDIAS YouTube video on options following a final EHC plan being issued, which has an additional focus on mediation. Your third option in this situation is to appeal to the SEND Tribunal. Your time limit for appealing to the Tribunal is 2 months from the date of the decision, or 1 month from the date of a mediation certificate, whichever is the later. The appeal process is evidence-based, so it's important to consider what evidence you have or can gather relating to the issues under appeal, which will help the judge to make a decision in the final hearing. You may find it helpful to take a look at our SENDIAS YouTube video, Things to Consider Before Lodging an Appeal, with an additional focus on Section I of the EHC Plan. Regardless of whether you appeal or go to mediation, it would also be helpful for you to continue working with the school named in the EHC plan while your actions take place. This is because a tribunal is a 12-week process. However, unfortunately, due to the increased demand on this tribunal service, some timetables for appeals are taking up to 50 weeks. For Section I appeals relating to a transition to a school from one phase of education to the next, the tribunal tried to provide a 10-week timetable with earlier hearing dates, which go between May and October. However, there are no guarantees around this, and this is based on availability and demand. As such, you would want your child's education to continue throughout. We hope you found this information helpful. However, if you don't see a question on here which has been helpful to your own situation, and you would require further information or advice, please feel able to contact us via the following link. We aim to get back to you within 5 working days of your contact. We hope you found this and our other related SENDIAS videos helpful.